professional footballer, there's no better feeling than scoring a goal. Hearing the roar of the crowd and the sound of the ball hitting the back of the net must be exhilarating. Throughout the decades, fantastic goal celebrations have become part and parcel of the game. Not only are they a real expression of joy, but they can also be used to send messages or can even be used to goad opposition fans, with some celebrations living long in the memory. Here is our rundown of 15 of the most iconic celebrations of all time. Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo will long be remembered for being one of the greatest footballers to have ever played the game. But every great player needs a celebration, and Ronaldo certainly has that. His famous "Sue" celebration has become a phenomenon and is adored by fellow players and fans alike. The celebration started when Ronaldo won his third Ballon d'Or. Upon claiming the award, he screamed "Sue" into the microphone, and a new meme was born. "Sue!" With the phrase catching on, Ronaldo started to scream it when performing his trademark jump and spin celebration. Growing in popularity over the last few years, Ronaldo's celebration has now reached the stage where the fans of his team will scream it in unison when he finds the back of the net. It's the most famous celebration in the world, and certainly one of the most recreated.
Messi does it again, it's superhuman!
Messi salutes the Bernabeu. It's only fair that after talking about Ronaldo's famous celebration, we also spend some time talking about his great rival, Lionel Messi. Despite scoring some beautiful goals, Messi doesn't have a patented celebration, but will always be remembered for his celebration against Real Madrid back in April of 2017. Upon scoring a last-minute winner and his 500th goal for Barcelona, rather than celebrating the moment wildly, Messi took off his shirt and proudly held it aloft so that all those inside the Bernabeu could read his name. This was his stadium, his moment.
Fantastic football in the end to pull this out of the fire.
In what was a clear act of defiance against his great rivals, the celebration will be forever remembered as one of his best and coldest. Marco Tardelli can't contain his delight. It's no surprise that several of the game's best celebrations have come at the World Cup. The highest pinnacle of the game, we have seen on numerous occasions the joy that players have when scoring vital goals for their country. The 1982 World Cup will always be remembered for Italy's famous victory. But one of the most immortalized moments in football history came in the final, when Marco Tardelli scored with a stunning strike to put the Italians 2-0 up. Upon seeing the ball hit the back of the net, Tardelli was overcome with emotion. Running towards the touchline with his arms seemingly out of control, Tardelli's unbridled joy beautifully summed up what it must have meant to score in a World Cup final. Tardelli's famous celebration is still replicated by football fans all over the world every time a new video from FootyFlix drops. Bebeto rocks the cradle. It has now become common for footballers who have either had a baby or are about to become a father to celebrate in some way. However, the trend was started way back in 1994 by Brazilian forward Bebeto. Facing a talented Dutch side in the World Cup quarterfinals, Bebeto put Brazil 2-1 up with a well-taken goal. His goal gave him another reason to celebrate, as just 2 days prior, Bebeto's son Mateus had been born. Wanting to dedicate his goal to his newborn son, Bebeto ran over to the touchline and started doing a cradling motion. Joined by his teammates Romario and Mazinho, they copied Bebeto's celebration, and one of the world's most iconic celebrations was born. Maradona plays last match for Argentina. As well as for Bebeto's famous cradle celebration, the 1994 World Cup will also be remembered for Diego Maradona. A footballing god, 1994 would be the last time that Maradona would ever represent his nation. Despite being in the twilight of his career, Maradona started the 1994 tournament well and was pivotal in a victory over Greece. Getting on the score sheet with a rocket of a strike, overcome with passion, Maradona charged towards the camera on the sideline. With his eyes bulging and his mouth wide open, the depiction of a charging Maradona was terrifying. Upon closer inspection of his celebration, rumors began to swirl that Maradona may have been playing under the influence. Despite being hard to believe, Unbelievably, those rumors were confirmed, and Maradona's tournament would come to an abrupt end after a positive drug test would see him sent home from the tournament in disgrace. Beckham redeems himself following 1998 nightmare. The 4 years between 1998 and 2002 were a nightmare for David Beckham. Largely blamed for England's 1998 World Cup exit to Argentina due to him being sent off, Beckham became a figure of hate back home, with many clamoring for him to never represent the Three Lions again. Despite the hate, Beckham's international career plowed on. And in 2000, Beckham was made England captain by new manager Sven-Göran Eriksson. After dramatically beating Germany 5-1, England headed into their final 2002 World Cup qualification match against Greece, knowing that just a single point would be enough to secure qualification for the finals. However, the game would turn into a nightmare. With England trailing 2-1 and facing the real prospect of having to qualify for the finals via the playoffs, they were awarded one last chance. Standing over a free kick 25 yards out from goal, Beckham stepped up and curled a beauty into the top corner past the stranded Greek goalkeeper, with Old Trafford descending into delirium. All of the pain of the past 4 years ebbed away as a delighted Beckham proudly stood in front of the Stretford end in defiance. From that moment, Beckham would go on to become one of England's most celebrated footballers. Bellingham becomes a star. Sticking with the theme of English footballers, Jude Bellingham could be one of the best talents that the country has ever produced. Still just 20 years old, Bellingham has settled into life at Real Madrid with ease, and looks born to play on the very brightest stage. Having already netted 17 goals for his new side, Bellingham's moment of arrival came when helping Madrid to a vital 2-1 win over Barcelona. Trailing 1-0, Bellingham leveled things up with a superb second-half strike. Letting fly from 30 yards, the ball whistled into the top corner and stunned the watching world. Calmly trotting to the byline, Bellingham simply stood with his arms out wide. Bellingham's celebration has become wildly popular, with young budding footballers replicating the move all over the world. Bellingham's celebration screams, "Here I am," and he looks set to grace the biggest stage for years to come. Why always me? Mario Balotelli will forever be remembered as a real football maverick. The moment that wrote Balotelli into Manchester City folklore was for his celebration in the 2012 Manchester Derby. Side-footing City into an early lead, Balotelli matched his calm finish by coolly lifting his shirt over his head to reveal a t-shirt underneath, which read, "Why always me?" Known for being a headache to his managers and for some interesting off-field antics, Balotelli was always never far away from making headlines.
That's a bit different at the bench. Look at Mancini.
Becoming a hugely divisive character, he was often the first target for opposition fans. Although a complex player and man, those 3 words, "Why always me?" summed up Balotelli beautifully, and his celebration is the moment that is most fondly remembered when describing his career in England. Paul Gascoigne drinks in the moment. When on the subject of football mavericks, it's impossible not to talk about Paul Gascoigne. A wizard with the ball at his feet, Gascoigne had been an English icon ever since bursting onto the scene at Italia 90. Euro 96 was the first time that England had hosted a major tournament in 30 years, and football fever had swept the nation. Before the tournament began, England's preparations were thrown into tatters after it had emerged that several stars, including Gascoigne, had been tied to a dentist chair and plied alcohol. Causing a national stir, Gascoigne's place in the team was up for debate, but England boss Terry Venables decided to ignore the uproar and keep Gascoigne in his plans. With England needing a result against Scotland and to get their Euro 96 campaign off the ground, the game was tied at 1-1 as it entered its final stages. Needing some magic, Gatza latched onto a long ball, expertly flicked it over the head of the chasing defender, and fired an unstoppable volley into the bottom corner of the net. Sparking scenes of wild jubilation, Gatza lay on the floor whilst 2 of his teammates poured water into his mouth, replicating the actions of that famous night just a few weeks before. From that moment, Gatza was England's hero once again. Adebayor comes back to haunt Gunners. It's an unwritten rule that if you score against your former club, you don't celebrate. But Emmanuel Adebayor certainly didn't see things that way. Signing for Arsenal back in 2006, Adebayor quickly established himself as one of the Premier League's best strikers. Seeking to become one of the highest-paid players in the league, Adebayor and Arsenal had reached an impasse, and rumors emerged that he wanted to leave. Manchester City, who had just been taken over by the Abu Dhabi Group, sensed an opportunity, and after matching Adebayor's demands, signed the Togolese international in the summer of 2009. Seen as a money grab, the Arsenal faithful took unkindly to Adebayor and viewed him as a traitor. When the two sides met for the first time since Adebayor's departure, tension was high. In a tight match, City led 2-1 before Adebayor had his moment. Heading home across to give his new side a 3-1 lead, Adebayor sprinted the length of the Etihad pitch to where the Arsenal fans were gathered.
Arsenal are breached again in Manchester, and Manchester City lead.
Performing a knee slide in front of the fans that used to adore him. His celebrations sparked a wild melee in the away end. Eventually being pulled away by his teammates, Adebayor's actions were criticized by the local police, and it was a miracle that nobody was hurt.
And he sets off to celebrate like never before.
Final say in this match. And it's another.
It is one of the most wild celebrations in Premier League history.